very beautiful morning, Sabbath morning, as we meet again to discuss present truth. I'd like to welcome you all in this study of Zechariah chapter 6. In the comfort of your homes, may we sit and relax, pen and paper, so we can jot down information which will help us as we study. Welcome you all. And we know today specifically we had promised to finish the fourth chariot from Zechariah chapter 6. For us to recap on the fourth chariot, let us read from Zechariah chapter 6 verse 6 to 7 so that we can catch up from where we are coming from, where we saw that in Zechariah chapter 6 there were two brass mountains which we described there, the valley inside, and then after all we are studying these chariots which depleted this mountain to make a valley. So this is why we have this study. And it was put by God on Zechariah 6 for a purpose, for you and me to study prophetic truth, which pertains to our history as we travel towards the kingdom. So this valley was caused by these four chariots. And then we are today, firstly we saw the first chariot had red horses, the second chariot had black horses, the third chariot had white horses. We have described all these horses. If you cannot comprehend where we are, you can go back to the video of last Sabbath on Zechariah chapter 6, describing more about these three chariots. Then we left the fourth chariot, which had two sets of spans of horses pulling one chariot. We want to understand more about these two sets, which we said one of the horses was grizzled and the other horses were bay. Those are the colors. So we want to understand what God wanted to communicate to us through these prophecies of the chariots being pulled by two sets of horses. It's there in the Bible. Let us read from Zechariah chapter 6 verse 6 to 7. Read on. Yeah.
The black horses which are therein go forth into the north country.
This is what we heard, that the black go to the to the north country, which is north of Israel, is Babylon. Obviously, that's where we went with the black horses after they persecuted these disciples, which are in the red horses. The horses are depicting leadership of that church. The chariot is the church. The people who were being led that time, that's the church. Now, not walls, but people. So here we have got the black horse pulling a chariot. It is in the dark ages. And then we saw soon after dark ages, we had another set of horses. Let's hear from where you were.
And the white go forth after them.
So we had a set of white horses, which are the Millerites, coming from the dark ages with reforming under William Miller. And these were first day Adventists, which were keeping the day Sunday. These were under William Miller. You can go to the history in Great Controversy, it's all there. So let's hear more about the fourth one. We want to understand. Let's hear more.
And the grizzled go forth toward the south country.
These are the grizzled. They are going to the south country. So this is a set of leadership which is pulling the horse to the south country. South of Israel. We saw what is south of Israel is Egypt. And we saw clearly from Testimonies, volume 5, that in 1882, Sister White proclaimed that the church has gone back to Egypt, which is a figurative. It's not the country, but figurative in the spirit of prophecy. So here we are being told even by Zechariah that they are going to Egypt. If you want, you can research more of that. In Revelation 11, it will tell you clearly that it's Sodom and Egypt. That's where we are. So let's go to the next sentence. What does it say? Yeah.
And the bay went forth,
right,
and sought to go, that they might walk to and fro through the earth.
So we have the bay here walking to and fro the whole globe. So these ones are the ones that have been permitted to proclaim the loud cry, as we are going to study from today to find out more clearly from the scriptures what are we talking about here we need to understand the history of the church from the time of the first brass mountain, which is the early Christian church, and these horses that have played their part, pulling this mountain down to make a valley. And then next we see a mountain picking stage into stage to wait for the time of the coming of Christ. This we will find at the time when Christ comes, which is the church triumphant. That's where we are leading. But we need to study the activity of this chariot, which is pulled by two sets of spans. The grizzled going to the south country, and the bay going through and for the whole country, the whole world. So it's a very interesting prophecy for you and me to understand, and so that we are enlightened about the history, where we are going, until we are in this next brass mountain, which will be found by Christ when he comes. Right? So let us read, for instance, let's confirm about these horses from Great Controversy, for Testimonies to Ministers, there on page 489 to 490. Just read in the middle of it. I took a quote there. The spasmodic fitful movement. That's what I want to know. Yeah.
The spasmodic, fitful movements of some who claim to be Christians is well represented by the work of the strong but untrained horses.
So Sister White is also depicting the movements done by leaders who are not properly trained horses, and is confirming that the horses are Christians, are movements, right? So let's hear more. She's talking actually about this one. You can see there is a rope here. These two sets, they are pulling from each other. So what is happening? Let's hear. When
one pulls forward,
you see,
another pulls back.
There is one. These two horses. There is two. The other set of the bay horses pulling, but this other one, the grizzled, what are they doing? It says if one pulls forward
and another
pulls back. This is what these two horses are doing from Testimonies to Ministers. What Sister White is elaborating more. So why do we see this rope there? We see because they pull against each other. When one wants to pull to walk through the whole world to produce a loud cry, the other one says, stop here, stop here. And we have been seeing what is happening. How the bay horses are being stopped. But we understand what is that is happening on the fourth chariot. You and I cannot afford to miss that information. Now let's hear, go to 2 tract 25.1 and let's read these symbolical horses. Let's hear.
These symbolical horses, therefore, each portray a certain class of people in connection with the church.
So what are these symbolical horses? They are portraying two sets. Yeah? Each portray certain class of people in connection with the church. So this is the church, which is the chariot. These horses, they are connected with the church, because what a horse is doing when it is drawing the chariot, so it means it's connected with that chariot. So, but the chariot is the church. Now let's hear more. Right?
And owing to the fact that each team is leading a chariot, they can denote only a class of church leaders.
Right. So each horse there is leading this chariot, but they are drawing the same chariot. Do you understand? Because they are not separate. They are pulling the chariot. So it means it's denoting two leadership in this chariot. A church which comes with two leaderships. Did you understand? This is what it is in the fourth chariot. After William Miller on the white horse, we find a set of two leaderships pulling the same church. Did you hear that? This is coming from the spiritual prophecy in the Bible. Now let's hear more. Let's hear more about that. Yeah.
The chariots, consequently, must in some way depict the church membership which the symbolical horses are leading.
So what is this chariot then? These are the church members being pulled by two sets of leaders. There are two sets of leaders, a leader of grizzled horses and a leader depicted by the bay horses. And we will see they are all pulling to different directions. One is pulling to the south country, and the other is pulling to and for the whole earth. So this chariot is in trouble. It's got two ways. That's why you find in Matthew chapter 7, God is talking about there are two ways. Let's hear from Matthew chapter 7. Yeah? When God is talking about these two ways, look for the verse which talks about the two ways. I think it's verse 13 or so. Check there. Chapter 7. Verse 13, right?
Enter ye
Enter you.
in at the straight gate.
Yeah.
For wide is the gate and broad is the way
This
that
is the
leadeth.
chariot with two ways. This one.
Yeah.
For you understand, these other chariots, they've got only one set of leadership. But this chariot has got two sets of leadership. But God is now talking through Matthew chapter 7. You enter into, for you to see which chariot is correct, because you are in a dilemma. Because you've got two sets of mouths speaking to the same chariot. So Christ gave a hint and said, enter ye into the straight road. Let's hear more about that. Yeah.
For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction.
Now, the other road you see in these two sets has got many people. And that's why it is wide. It's a numberless company. It's wide. Right? And next,
And many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life,
Right.
and a few there be that found.
did you see these two? Let's read it without me interjecting. Let enter ye in the gate. Let's read it again.
Enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction,
Right?
and many there be which go in thereat.
Right. So it's got one set of horses pulling many, which are in a wide road, in a broad road, but leading into destruction. Right? You don't see two sets of chariots, two sets of horses in these other chariots. Even when the black horses were just pulling one. The white horses were pulling one. And the red horses, they're pulling one. But when you come to the fourth chariot, you find two sets, the grizzled and the bay. But then God gives a hint through Matthew chapter 7. Enter ye into the narrow one. For when we see a broad with many people, and what is the opposite? That we consider a movement to be correct by having too many people. But Matthew chapter 7 does not say so. It says the road leading into life is narrow, and the straight and narrow is got few. Read that one. Let's hear.
Because straight is the gate,
Right.
and narrow is the way,
Right.
which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it.
Right. So this chariot is being pulled by two, but you distinguish which one is correct there. It has to pull the chariot, and it's in a straight road. You cannot even have problems in learning what they are believing. It's clear and straightforward, but it's got few. It's narrow. It's a narrow path. It's got few. Why? Why is it narrow? You understand why it is narrow. We are studying today. It should be narrow. Why? Because when you are told, for health and temperance, when you are told to stop eating meat, how many say yes? Few, right? When you are told to kneel for prayer, and how many did? Few. When you are told to keep the feast, how many do? Few. When you are told to have the 5 angels' messages instead of 3, how many? Few. So straight and narrow is the road to life. Did you hear that? But the other one, which is being led by the grizzled, is broad. And it's got many, but leading into death. This is what Matthew chapter 7 says. And we have found it in Zechariah chapter 6. It's clear talking about these two sets of horses. That's the only chariot we find, two sets, two rods. Because all other chariots have got one. They are all following one set of horses. But this one, we have been told by Zechariah chapter 6 that it's got two sets of horses. It calls for you and I to believe, to see what is the right thing to follow before the doomsday comes. Now let's hear more. Let's go back to the quote that you are reading from tract 25.1. Right, let's hear. The chariots consequently must be some way depict the church membership. That's what you read, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Moreover, to Zechariah's question, what are these, my Lord? The angel answered and said,
right?
These are the four spirits of heaven, which go forth from standing before the Lord of all the earth.
So the four spirits, which are these four chariots with horses, they are all coming from God. And this is what God is saying in the earth. This is what is happening. And it says the very last Laodicean church with two sets of leadership. We'll see whether it is Laodicea. Let's hear more. Hence,
these symbolisms stand for heaven-born messages carried by the church on earth. And since the symbolism is self-defining, it answers the question,
why then? The question is, why
a
chariot, a symbol of a church? Why is it a symbol of a church? But let's answer. We want to find out why it is a symbol of a church. We know exactly it's a symbol of a church. Now let's go and start from the fourth chariot, 2 tract 34.1. Let's hear.
Since the first three chariots embraced the history of the church up to 1844 AD,
right.
The fourth one must represent a subsequent church organization.
Right.
Successor.
So we saw from the early Christian church, which had only these sets of horses, which are colored red. They all were persecuted. It didn't go anywhere. The next one, the persecutor, which had black horses, the dark edges is already dark. It's black horses. So we saw it was a church. And then also the Millerite movement, it was also a church of the first-day Advent believers. And William Miller leading them. They were all, so after William Miller, what do we find? We see exactly from Ezekiel chapter 4, William Miller was followed by Sister White. Right, so it means Sister White was now introducing the next set of horses, of chariot. Under her came two sets. Right? Read on, let's hear.
The fourth, since the first three chariots embraced the history of the church up to 1844, the fourth one must represent a subsequent church organization, successor to the Millerite or Philadelphian church. The last of the seven churches, the Church of the Laodiceans, necessarily, therefore, is the one symbolized by the fourth chariot.
Right. But we want more proof to it. We'll find it as we go along. So we know exactly from history. After William Miller came Sister White. And then we are saying, it's amazing to find that she was introducing a church which was going to end outrightly with two leadership. This is coming from the word of God and the spirit of prophecy. Right. Let's see. Let's hear from point 2 there. It says, amidst the multi-sectarian
amidst the multi-sectarian confusion overspreading all Christendom at the present time, it may seem difficult to segregate the Laodiceans from among the rest.
Right.
But the great designer of types and symbols, the one who seeing the end from the beginning, thus foresaw precisely what was to be the condition of the work of the last seven churches, must the work of the last 7 churches, must therefore, by his word, be able to pick this church from among the multitude of churches and set it like a beacon, shining forth in the darkest hour of the night.
If it did not give us Zechariah 6, it was going to be very hard to distinguish which one is it. But because we have Zechariah 6, we have the Laodicean church, the only church amongst all Christian churches which has 2 leaderships. So it's clear, we'll find out why does it have 2, 3, and what is happening. Right, let's read on again.
But even as Satan put forth determined efforts to misapply the name Philadelphia, and thus to obscure it from view and cause it to go unnoticed, so has he confused the name of the last chariot. Just as the name Philadelphia fits only one church organization and only one of the chariots, so the name Laodiceans can logically fit only one of the chariots and only one denomination.
Right. In the time of Miller, we still had other churches, but the one that was being recorded in the Bible was from William Miller with the white horses. Why? Why white? Why do you actually think it was white? And why do you actually think from the prediction of Philadelphia church, it was brotherly love? Why? It's the only church, mark my word, it's the only church that did not disfellowship anybody. So it had brotherly love. Amongst all these churches, the church which did not disfellowship brethren was the Philadelphian. Why? Because those who are disfellowshipping had no brotherly love. There's no brotherly love. And we see for sure in the dark ages, Martin Luther, John Knox, Campbell, they were all being disfellowshipped. That's why they ended up with different religions, denominations. Why? Because they were disfellowshipped. And here in Laodicea, let me tell you one thing. It's a song of the day to be disfellowshipped for the truth. That is a chorus. You have to join in that chorus. Once you do not experience that chorus, let me tell you, my dear, you have not started worshiping. Once you want to worship, this one is the biggest disfellowshipper. That one, Laodicea. It comes after the dark ages. This Philadelphian had brotherly love. Did not disfellowship anybody. That's why even the symbol fits snugly that they were white horses. It was full of love. But this one was disfellowshipping. All the reformers were disfellowshipped. And this one, purely with 2 sets of leaders, obviously the other leader will not tolerate the other one. They are the big disfellowshippers. You know, they are the ones who call other people offshoots when they disfellowship them for truth. So it is number 1 disfellowshipper. Now let's hear more. Just the name where you had finished.
Just the name Philadelphia fits only one church organization,
Right.
and only one of the chariots. So the name Laodiceans can logically fit only one of the chariots and only one denomination.
Right.
The word itself is derived from the Greek word lego dikian.
Right. That's where Laodicea comes from the Greek word lego dikian.
Meaning declaring judgment.
So that's the church which declares judgment. Why? The other bay horses are fulfilling the truth so that those who are following the grizzled are judged already. That's the only church where there is a sealing program. When they are declaring through the whole earth, they are the ones proclaiming the sealing process, the sealing program. And once one is sealed, the other one is not sealed. The one that is not been sealed has been judged. Did you get that one? So that's the proper name, Laodicea, or the church that will judge. Now let's hear after. After the event.
After the event of the Philadelphian church,
Mm-hmm.
there must therefore be a church declaring judgment.
Right?
And it is a historical fact
Mm-hmm.
that in 1844, the very year the Millerite movement came to the end of its appointed course,
Mm-hmm.
a new movement of Sabbath keepers arose, proclaiming, "Fear God and give glory to Him, for the hour of His judgment is come."
Is it not a historical fact? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We are studying history. The history of the church now in the fourth chariot. Now, let's hear more. Now, I want you to go to 252. It's there on there. You see what even the founder of the Sabbath keeping church said. Sister White, what did she refer to the church as named as Laodicea? Let's hear. Inspired.
In spite of the unenviable record of the Laodicean church, the founder of its movement, unlike the founders of other movements, honestly states in testimonies, the message...
Volume 3, page 252. You go to 3T, page 252, you find what she said. What did Sister White say?
The message to the church of the Laodiceans is a startling denunciation and is applicable to the people of God at the present time.
So who did she say was called Laodicea? It says Laodicea is mentioned to the people of God at the present time. So at her time, she called the people at that time Laodiceans. Did you see? She said so. She says it's applicable. When you see the name Laodicea in Revelation chapter 3, is applicable to the it says the message to the church of the Laodiceans is a startling denunciation and is applicable to the people of God at the present time. She's the one who diagnosed and told us that the people of her denomination were called Laodicea. It's in clear black and white. Otherwise, Revelation 3 verse 14 would be amazed who is being referred by this, who is neither hot, neither cold. Who could be amazed who is Revelation talking about. But Sister White says it is applicable. It's a name applicable to the people of God in her time. So we proclaim clearly that those who were under Sister White were called Laodiceans. That one is black and white. Spirit of Prophets confirms Revelation 3 verse 14. Right. So it says tract 36.1. So both
the third chariot and the Philadelphian church have been identified as representing the Millerite movement, and also since the Laodicean church has been identified as representing the Sabbath movement by Sister White.
So now we now understand when we talk about Laodicea, we now understand is this chariot which followed the Millerite. We are clear on that point. But now we want to find out who are these grizzled leaders. Now, let's see this double leadership. Let's go again to tract 36.3 and the fourth chariot. This is the fourth chariot, yeah?
And in the fourth chariot were grizzled and bay horses.
Right. So we see here grizzled and bay. Later on, let's see.
The anomalous part of this symbolical prophecy is manifestly that the fourth chariot, unlike the other three, has a double span of horses.
Right. There is one thing that makes it so unique. This fourth chariot, it's got double span of horses, the grizzled and the bay. This is what is so significant of this fourth chariot. Now let's hear more.
But most arresting about the whole symbolism is the paradoxical fact that the grizzled went toward the south country and the bay went forth and walked to and fro through the earth.
Right. This is Zechariah 6 verse 6 to 7 she's commenting about. Right, let's hear the grizzled.
The grizzled go one way and the bay another way.
the crystal just went south. The bay, another way. So they are pulling against each other. Right? Let's hear.
And yet both are pulling the same chariot.
How is it then? They are both pulling the same chariot. Yet the other one is directing the chariot to the south. And the bay are directing the chariot through. And so what is going to happen on this chariot is in trouble. The chariot which is in trouble is the Laodicean chariot. It is in trouble. These other chariots were not in trouble. They were being pulled steadily by their horses. But the Laodicean chariot is in trouble because it's got two sets of leaderships pulling the chariot. Now let's hear more.
Obviously, therefore, this strange circumstance must hold a singular present truth lesson of great importance to the Church of God at the present hour.
Right?
When the vision has been opened and the truth unfolded, the time in which the Church is confronted with a strange and perplexing problem which human wisdom is at a loss to solve.
Right? So, who is going to solve this problem? Because Zechariah didn't consult anyone. He simply wrote what God was inspiring him to write on Zechariah 6. So who's going to sort these two symbolism of two sets of horses pulling a chariot? Who's going to solve it? Now, there are so many people who cry when they are coming in contact with two sets of leaders. They found this leader talking about the feast, and they go to the other leader saying the feast were nailed. They are confused. Who is going to solve that? Who's going to solve it? Who's going to solve it? Two sets of leaders, which is true. And they wonder what is going on. They find some keeping the Lord's Supper once on the 14th day of the first Jewish month at even as it was instituted by the Savior himself. And they find the other sets saying anytime let's count 13th Sabbath and let's count this and that, and during broad daylight they call it supper. They force you to say it is supper. It is supper when it is broad day. Now they are confused, saying these sets, what then? What then? You know, the preachers are so many. This one is saying kneel. This one is saying stand. This one is saying health and temperance. Make sure you discard all these animal products and be a vegetarian. This one says, no, when your health is fine, just get on, keep getting on. When Sister White also proves and says, it is for health and for spiritual reasons too. And they say, no, it is not for health, for spiritual reasons, it's only for health. Two leaders pulling each other like that. One is pulling the chariot to Egypt, and the other one is pulling the chariot through the whole earth. So now this chariot is in trouble, but who's going to solve it? Two ways in a chariot to follow. One is narrow. Nobody wants it. It needs a lot of commitment to the cause of God. A lot of commitment. Your plate is right. Your health and temperance is right. Your doctrine is right. And then the other one needs a simple life. So where do most people go? Easy way. There is the easy way, and there's a way which is so committed. But God clearly says it's narrow. It's the way to life. Broad is the way to death. Finish with this horse, this chariot. He did finish, but we want to study more about this chariot today. Now let's hear more. Yeah, the similar teams.
The dissimilar teams.
Yeah, obviously, these two teams. We have Team Grizzle and Team Bay. Team Grizzle here and Team Bay. So let's call Team Grizzle as Team G. And then Team Bay, Team B. So we have G and B for now. Do you understand? Then they are not similar. That's why they are called the dissimilar teams. They are not similar at all. Read one, let's hear.
The dissimilar teams hitched to the fourth chariot, each pulling in a different direction from the other, show not only that there is a double leadership in the Laodicean church, but also that the one is opposed to the other in character as well as in purpose.
So These two leaders there, Team G and Team B, they are different in character and in purpose. Well, one is on a new moon. Like last new moon was on a Friday, isn't it? The other one is not. So do you see they're so different? So different. When one is keeping the Passover, the other one is not. For example, someone was keeping the Feast of Tabernacle on the Passover date. So Team G and Team B, they're quite different. They're quite different in character and in purpose. If you can analyze properly, you'll find the characters are different. The purposes are different. This is what Zechariah 6 has portrayed to you and me. And God inspired Zechariah to write that for you who live in the time of the fourth chariot. Now let's hear.
This condition, being a strange one, the wise will well consider it, seeing that the word of God has spoken it,
Right.
and that the symbolism perfectly describes the contest which before their very eyes is taking place.
This contest of this Team G and Team B is happening in front of your very eyes. And most people don't know what is happening. But through the prophecy of Zechariah chapter 6, you will know. You will know. Those who are sincerely looking for the truth will know. Unless you are comfortable in the broad way. But everybody now is rushing up and down looking for the narrow way. But the narrow way will save into life. And here it says it's happening in front of our eyes. Right? Let's hear now.
Now, for the explanation of the climactic and enigmatic part of this symbolism, we must go to the past and present record of the Laodicean church.
Right? For us to understand more deeply about what is this happening, let's dig deeper into the history of the Laodicean church. Let's hear.
As the message to every church is addressed to the angel who has
We saw
charge.
in Revelation chapter 1, verse 20. The angel, the message is addressed to the angel. Let's go to that verse. Let's see. Is this the angel? It's not the whole church. It's the angel who is neither cold nor hot. Who says I'm rich and increased with nothing, who has nothing to do with anything, who says I'm content. It's not the whole church. It is the angel. Let's hear. Is it the angel? Who is the angel? Revelation 1 verse 20.
And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, These things saith the Amen,
Right?
the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot.
Right?
I would thou wert cold or hot.
Right. Revelation 1 verse 20.
1 verse 20.
Who is this angel? We have seen in Revelation 3 verse 14, it says, unto the angel. It did not say unto the church, but unto the angel, who is neither hot and neither cold. It's not the church. It's the angel. But who is this angel? Revelation 1 verse 20.
The mystery of the 7 stars, which thou sawest in my right hand, and the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches.
Right?
And the 7 candlesticks, which thou sawest, are the 7 churches.
So, the church is called candlestick. The angel is the star. And what are the stars? When you went in Daniel chapter 8, will tell you that he destroyed the stars. That big one, destroyed the stars, which were the disciples, which were leading the early Christian church. They were leaders. A star is a leader. So the mystery of this star, the mystery, so take my word, know that the spirit of prophecy calls a leader a star or an angel. Those 2 words mark me, because we find them in the sealing process in early writing, page 15, where we see that the first seal is God. Read it, early writing, star. want to see more about this star. Early writing 15, page 15.
The 144,000 were all sealed and perfectly united.
Right?
On their foreheads was written, God,
One.
New Jerusalem,
Two.
and a glorious star containing Jesus' new name.
So we see now on that early writing page 15 a star, which was also inscribed on the foreheads of those who followed. Did you hear that? So what do we see? A star with Jesus' new name. So it means among us, when we say Jesus' new name is the branch, from Zechariah 6 verse 12, then it means the third seal has to do with the star, or the leader who preaches the branch message.
Amen.
Branch, new
Name.
name. So, while it's the Laodicean message is directed to a star who is neither hot nor cold, but at the same time there is a star which has a glorious name of Christ. New name of Christ. Did you hear? There are two opposing stars there. There is a star which is neither hot nor cold, because it says Revelation 3 verse 14, the angel is the message to the Laodicean is addressed to the star. And at the same time we have a star which has Jesus' new name. Did you see how advanced it is? So we are telling you about the sealing. We are telling about God, which is the name of God. New Jerusalem, which is the name of the city, or the name of the Holy Ghost. And then included in the sealing process is a star,
Amen.
or is a leader who has God's new name. So why are people why is God putting the name of the star, which is Jesus' new name? Why? So that the angels identify the 144,000 properly under the name of the leader.
Amen.
Did you hear that? Now we're studying things that are so much advanced to those who are not yet inspired by the Spirit of God to contend these deep things. Now listen, let's go back now. This to the paragraph on 2 tract 37 verse 3. It says, as the message to every church is addressed to the angel. So we know now there is an angel or a leader who is neither hot nor cold. And then we also at the same time we have a star, a glorious star with Jesus' new name, with a message of the branch. Did you hear that? Now, let's hear.
As the message to every church is addressed to the angel who has charge of the candlesticks,
Right?
John was instructed, and unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write. But this angel cannot be a heavenly angel,
No.
for he is at fault.
Because a heavenly angel is not at fault. But this one which is being addressed in Revelation 3 verse 14 is faulty. It's neither hot nor cold. So it can't be heavenly. Right, let's hear.
But this angel cannot be an heavenly angel, for he is at fault,
Right?
neither
hot.
cold nor hot,
Right?
but wretched and miserable, and poor and blind and naked,
Right.
and
so
knowest
So
not.
it can't be a heavenly angel. But it's a faulty angel. Right? Let's hear. What else?
What else could this angel be but the earthly one who is given charge over the candlestick?
There is an earthly one given charge over the candlestick. So that's an angel. Or that's a leader. Now let's hear more.
Plainly, therefore, he and the servant whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season,
Now,
are
you remember
identical.
In Matthew 24, Matthew 24 verse 45. Go to it, that verse. You remember there is another servant who is giving meat in due season at our time.
Amen.
Which we saw that angel God had to make him ruler of everything because he found that angel giving meat in juices or present truth. That is meat in juices. So God says, I'll make you that. And let's hear from verse 45. Yeah.
Who then is a faithful and wise servant,
Right?
whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household,
Right.
to give them meat in due season.
So who is not faulty at our time is the one who is giving meat in due season or present truth. Who God is asking, who then? Why is he asking? Because several of them are not giving meat in due season. But he finds someone giving meat in due season, and he says, when Christ comes, he will make that servant ruler of everything. Because he was faithful. Now let's go back to the plainly therefore.
Plainly therefore, he and the servant whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give the meat in due season,
Right.
are identical,
Right.
both of whom clearly represent the church leadership, not the membership.
Right?
Anyone having a reasonable knowledge of the scriptures should know that God cannot finish his work on earth with a wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked leadership.
Now, once God has proclaimed that I'll spew thee, I think you've got to repent. If you can't, God cannot use leadership which has identified that they're neither hot nor cold, wretched, miserable, poor and blind, and worse, no, it's not. God will not finish the gospel with such a condition. God needs people who will take up the cross and preach the gospel of the time, the present truth. Now, let's read on.
Those who are excusing the overwhelming wickedness everywhere are not God's true people.
Right. Those who say, no, stop talking about them, stop talking about, they are not God's true people. They are not seeing the truth. They are not really enlightened by God. Because when God has to come now with light, why do you think they are disfellowshipping people? Because the light comes to address the real cause of the problem. The real cause where people have to wake up. So because of that, they have to say, stay away, leave us with our Laodicean state. Now let's hear more. The last two angels, let's hear. We have 5 angels here. Sorry, there's a chart there on these other 2, and then there's these other 3. We have 5. But God has made a commission through the next book we are going to read. It's in the New Estate. It's EGWC 571.3. God has given that commission for these 5 angels. For this additional 2, because the Laodicean, the whole crime of the Laodicean, they have stopped with the 3rd. They haven't gone to the 5th. So God is still waiting for these 2 more there to make them 5. So let's hear, are there still 2 more angels coming? And if the Laodicean leadership does not want to progress from the 3rd to the 5th, then what is going to happen? The bay horses will finish its 2 more messages. Let's hear the last 2 from EGWC 571.3. Read from that.
The last 2 angels are messages of prayer.
Right?
We shall, no doubt, better understand them at the time of their fulfillment.
So we still have these 2 more, the last 2, to be preached. And it says, we shall better understand when their time is come for them to be fulfilled. These are messages. But then Laodicean stops with the 3rd. So who's going to do these 2 more, which Sister White is, the Spirit of Prophets confirms we will understand them before Christ comes. Who is going to do that? Don't worry, the Bay are there.
Amen.
Team G is there. It's going to finish the whole, the 2 angels to add on to the 3 to make them 5, the whole world will get their pleasant truth. Don't worry, Team G, Team B, not G. G is grizzled. Team B is Bay. Don't worry about Team Bay. Team Bay is there. And you know, in other versions, when you say bay horses, they don't say bay. Like in my language, in Shona, if you go to the Shona Bible, you'll find when it says bay, it doesn't say bay, it says strong ones. Anesimba. It says strong ones, anesimba. Meaning the strength has been given to the bay horses to finish these 2 more. Did you remember the parable of the 10 virgins? The 5 foolish ones stayed on 3. And the wise ones, they topped up the oil. They topped the message. The oil is in the message, in the Holy Spirit. The Holy Ghost brings that oil. And this is the 2 more to top, which was taken by the 5 wise ones. And they finished. The 5 angels' message was done. Now let's hear. In view, let's go to commentary on 2 Tracts 39.1. It says, in view of this sad fact.
In view of this sad fact, God must have a second leadership to finish his work, his greatest work.
True. Yes.
Since the world began.
And let's see, is it true? Yes, it's true. We've got these 2 more. They need another set of leadership. They need the next set, which is the bay horses. Is it true from the word? Yes. Revelation 14 gave up to 9 there. But we still have to go up to 17. Or also Revelation 7 verse 2. What does it say, Revelation 7 verse 2? Or start from verse 1. Revelation 7.
Okay. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth or nor on the sea or on any tree.
Right.
And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God.
Right.
And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea.
Now, let's hear the next one.
Saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads.
So this angel was coming from the east. So it says, after these, after what? After Sister White had finished.
Yeah.
After Revelation 14 verse 9 is finished. What came next? The seal from the east. If then we say Sister White has finished, no more prophet, and the Laodicean leadership does not want to preach the further light of these 2 more, or of the Revelation 7 verse 2 of this angel coming from the east, who's gonna preach it? Who's gonna preach it? Don't worry, the Bay, Team B is there. Team Bay is here. It's gonna finish these 2 more, which are exactly the Revelation 7 verse 2 coming from the east says, hold till we. You can't tell us that we don't have any more prophets when we have a sealing process in this time. Who is then conducting the sealing process? For it comes with a prophet. The seal comes with a prophet. And you tell me that there is no more prophet, yet we are in a crucial period where the seal is being put on the foreheads of people. And who is doing that? When this is a message of Revelation 7 verse 2 coming from the east. And we know the first seal, which is God, was proclaimed by Sister White, which was the Sabbath. It did not come just like anywhere else with no one conducting the Sabbath message. Now, the seal from the east, which is giving us from early writing these 2 more seals. Fortunately, the last seal, which is Jesus' new name, a star, a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. The star is a leader already, having this message of the 2 more seals. Do you get the point? Any writing, page 15, it says, the 3rd seal is a star. I was waiting to see those who continue to say, the seal is the Sabbath and they are finished. Why? Yeah, because that's where Sister White finished on verse 9. Finished with the Sabbath. But what about these? And what about early writing, which still has 2 more? Early writing 15 says there are 3. So if you say it's the Sabbath, and then you have no 2 more, they actually need, they have got the prophet already, the seals themselves, they have got the prophet already, because it's a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. Did you hear that? A glorious star containing, any writing, read it properly. Let's read it again analytically. Early writing, page 15.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The 144,000
Mm-hmm.
were all sealed and perfectly united.
Right?
On their foreheads were written, God,
1.
New Jerusalem,
Right?
and a glorious star containing Jesus' new
So
name.
you see the 3 seals. One of the seals is the glorious star, or the glorious leader, with Jesus' new name. That's the message the leader has. The leader has the message of Jesus' new name, which is branch. So it's in the seal already. So how can you receive the seal without the name of the leader? You've got it. You've got to be identified with the leader. When God is passing the seal, you will see that. That's why the dragon was wroth with the woman, and the dragon went to find the seed, because they have a glorious star, or they have the faith of Jesus, or they have the glorious star with Jesus' message of the new name, the branch. Did you hear that? Understand it without bias, without prejudice. Empty those and say to God, I need to understand. I need to be saved. Otherwise, you will be in the broad way. Broad is the way which does not recognize the new name of Christ. Broad is the way which does not recognize the branch name. But narrow is the name, is the way which recognizes the new name, and the new name comes with neither anybody but the glorious star containing Jesus' new name. Did you hear? It's one of the seals. Unfortunately, we were used to taking the prophets and killing them, but this time God will make sure the prophet is in the seal, is written in your forehead. When the prophet is alive and the prophet is acting with the message of a glorious star of Jesus' new name, that glorious star will be alive and will appear on your forehead. Did you get it? Yeah, nice. It's nice. The gospel is nice. That's why William Miller was really interested when he preached about the coming of Christ. It was sweet as honey in the mouth, sweet as honey. Let's read from that paragraph where you're reading. Yeah. Let's go to that's the testimony.
Thus by the testimony and by symbol, the word of God brings to view two dissimilar classes of servants.
Right.
The one lukewarm, the other without fault.
Is it true? This Revelation, Zechariah 6 brings 2 servants pulling the Laodicean church. One with fault, neither hot nor cold. That's the fault. And the other one, glorious star, containing Jesus' new name. Oh, Matthew 24, verse 45. Who is that servant who God will find giving meat in due season? Then we are finished. We are finished it. You know, let's study more. Let's study more to those. We know that there are people who learn slowly. We are not so quick to catch it. It's just slow but sure, isn't it? That's now I'm just going for those people who are slow learners. But the quick learners have already caught the lesson. Now let's go. In Testimonies, volume 5, page 80. Is it true we have 2 leaders, 2 sets of leaders there? Is it true in page 80? There it says, but the days.
But the days of purification of the church are hastening on apace.
Right?
God will have a people pure and true.
Is it true? Because we have seen Team G is not pure and true. Team G is not. Why? It's neither hot or cold. So God is foreseeing a time and says to Sister White on 5T, page 80, the days of purification are near. That's when God will have a people who are pure and true when these bay horses have worked. Now let's hear what will happen there.
Those who have trusted to intellect,
Right.
genius, or talent will not then stand at the head of rank and file.
So there are some who had already been working, but God is saying they won't be the head. They won't stand at the head of rank and file of servants. Who are these? Yeah, who are these? Now, go to the estate itself and go to 5T page 8. I want to see who these are. Right?
The days are fast approaching when there will be great perplexity and confusion. Satan, clothed in angel robes,
Right?
will deceive, if possible, the very elect. There will be gods many and lords many. Every wind of doctrine will be blowing.
Right?
Those who have rendered supreme homage to science falsely so called
Right.
will not be the leaders then.
Right. Who are these? Who went through education called science, falsely so called? Who are these? That's theology. That's the science falsely so called. That's theology. They won't be the leader then. Did you hear that? Sister White is talking exactly what is happening in Zechariah chapter 6. Now what happened? Why?
Those who have trusted to intellect,
Right?
genius,
Right?
and talent
Right.
will not then stand at the head of rank and file.
Right. We have repeated what we have just read, isn't it? Right? Why?
They did not keep pace
They
with
did
the
not
light.
keep pace with the 5 angels' messages. They stopped at Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. 3 angels. They did not keep pace and ran through the rest of 2 more angels, which God was waiting for them to be proclaimed so that the chariot is well sealed with 5 distinct messages. Sister White talks about it. It's 5 distinct messages. Why stop at number 9? On verse 9 for 3 angels. Why not go to the end? Why? Because this is the reason why God will discard the first workers and put the layman's movement. Because why? The laymen are not trained from these institutions. They are reading from the unction of the Spirit. And they are trained by the unction of the Spirit and will complete the 5 angels' messages. Right? And let's hear more.
They did not keep pace with the light.
Right?
Those who have proved themselves unfaithful will not then be entrusted with the flock.
Why unfaithful? Because God has given 5 angels. And then they just decided to stop on 3. And not faithful enough to keep on until the 5 are finished. So those who have proved unfaithful, God will discard. Will take those who have taken and topped the lights with extra oil, 2 more, and finished, like it is on the quotation we saw from Sister White, that these 2 more angels have got to be fulfilled, have got to be proclaimed so that everyone knows these 2 more angels. So those who decide to stop at number 3 angel instead of number 5, God will not use them in the ministry of the bay horses going through. Let's hear more.
In the last great work,
Right?
few
Right.
great men
Right.
will be engaged.
How many? Which great men do you know? Those who are trained with science falsely so called. Few great men will be engaged. They are so fortunate, those few ones. Because even go to Gospel Workers, go to Gospel Workers, page 304. You find God is lamenting about these great men to come and join the bay. They should join the bay. Go to Gospel Workers, page 304. Yeah, let's hear.
There is sadness.
Yeah.
There is sadness in heaven over the spiritual blindness of many of our brethren.
Right?
Our younger ministers.
Why this grizzled? There is sadness in heaven over the spiritual blindness of this grizzled. Why? And then listen to that.
Our younger ministers,
Right?
who fill less important positions, must make decided efforts to come to the light.
You have to make decided efforts to join the bay and what?
To sink the shaft deeper.
Sink your shaft deeper and have these two more angels to join the three. Yeah.
And still deeper in the mine of
And
truth.
still deeper in the mine of truth. Yeah.
The rebuke of the Lord will rest upon those who would bar the way, that clearer light shall not come to the people.
Instead, you see what Sister White is saying. He says, sorry. He's saying these three angels, the rebuke of the Lord, instead of running through to this, fortunate we see these two more angels there. Instead of running through to these two more angels, what are they saying? They will bar the way so that the chariot won't see these two more angels. Bar the way. No, we are finished with the third. We are finished with the third. Don't go to the fourth and the fifth. The rebuke of the Lord will be to those who will bar the way so that people don't progress to the fifth angel. Read that statement again.
Okay. The rebuke of the Lord will rest upon those who would bar the way, that clearer light shall not come to the people.
Right?
A great work is to be done, and
great
God
work
sees.
Is to be done that these two more angels should go to the people. Yeah.
And God sees that our leading men have need of more light.
Even the leading men, they need this more light to top up. And
that they may unite with the messengers whom he sends to accomplish
they
the
should
work.
unite with the bay horses. The messengers who God has called. Repeat that sentence.
A great work is to be done, and God sees that our leading men have need of more light, that they may unite with the messengers whom he sends to accomplish the work that he designs shall be done.
That work should be done. And God has designed that work should be done. You have to join the messengers God has prepared for himself to take these two bay horses, to pull the chariot through to the 5 angels' messages and finish it. The rebuke of the Lord is waiting. That's why he had Ezekiel 9. Why Ezekiel 9? He's angry. He's angry. Why didn't you go to the 5th angel's message? Why? Why stop on 3? This is what he has said. If you are neither hot nor cold, if you want to be hot, get on to the 5th angel. If you stay on verse 9, Revelation 14, verse 9, you're neither hot nor cold. You don't want to progress. And he promises, I'll spew you. Now, let's go back to the paragraph, right? It says
the fact that our conferences grant ministerial licenses only to college graduates shows that they are trusting to human wisdom.
Right.
Wisdom which God...
Where are you granting these ministerial licenses to? To people who are trained only. So are you telling me that if God has to call someone, we have to first go and train that person? If he's not trained, God cannot call. Are you telling me that God will just be limited to calling those who are trained and has nobody who is not trained who he wants to call? Are you telling me that? Yeah. That fact, if you believe that's how a calling should be, then it proves you are leaning on human wisdom. God wants people who will only be leaning on his wisdom, not on human thinking. Now, let's hear more. Right?
The fact that our conferences grant ministerial licenses only to college graduates shows that they are trusting to human wisdom.
And now you see, they even trust human wisdom, and next they even say, even those few that they have selected from trainings, they don't want to train the women. They say the women, no ordination, no, if they are ever trained, they are given less important jobs and whatever. Don't trust into human wisdom. What type of wisdom is that? Listen to the next sentence. Wisdom.
Wisdom, which God can no more use now than he could when Moses displayed it.
Moses displayed that wisdom by going to kill an Egyptian. He was displaying such wisdom. So God is saying, even when he displayed that, he didn't use him. Now let's hear, how did he use him?
And the fact that they have been following in this foolish course for years is another unimpeachable evidence in the proof that the ministry at the present time is comprised of men whom God cannot use. Not only because they are independent of him, but also because against his will they have kept out of the work those whom he can use.
Right. They keep out of the work those whom God can use. And they say, the only one that you can use are those that we have trained. Yeah. And we picked them because they had 5 O levels or the 8 A level. These are the ones God is going to use. Let me tell you one thing. Don't keep away the people that God is going to call. God is going to surprise people. He's going to surprise by picking his own to be in the bay horses. The bay horses will lead the chariot into a narrow way which will stand on Mount Zion, which is 144,000, will be properly sealed. And he's a gracious God. He has even made the 3rd seal the name of the leader who is preaching these 3s.
Amen.
I love God for that. I love God for that. Now, whilst everyone saying the seal is the Sabbath, seal is the Sabbath, seal is the... But they don't know that there are 3 seals. The Sabbath, one of them, preached by Sister White on verse 9, but because they didn't go to verse 14 up to 17, they don't even know that one of the seal of the 3rd one, has the name of the leader of the prophet who they say they don't have the prophet. It's a glorious star containing Jesus' new name. And what is a star? A star is a leader. Now let's hear more. 2 Tract 40.1.
Now, I want to say, God has not put any kingly power in our ranks to control this or that branch of the work. The work has been greatly restricted by the efforts to control it in every line. Here is a vineyard presenting its barren places that have received no labor.
Right?
And if one should start out to till these places in the name of the Lord, unless he should get the permission of the men in a little circle of authority, he would receive no help. God means that his workers shall have help. If 100 should start out on a mission to destitute fields, crying unto God, he would open the way before them.
You know what, layman? When you get the message, simply get on. God will be with you. He says, start the work, and the means will follow you. Let them hold the means for the layman, but God will still follow you and give you the means to do the work. Don't even wait. When you get the truth, Isaiah chapter 6 says, arise and shine. The light of God has come on you. Shine. Now, it says 2 Tract 40.2. It is telling us, let me tell you.
Let me tell you, if your heart is in the work,
Right?
and you have faith in God, you need not depend upon the sanction of any minister or any people. If you go right to work in the name of the Lord in a humble way, doing what you can do to teach
Right?
the truth, God will vindicate you.
Right?
If the work had not been so restricted by an impediment here
Right?
and an impediment there, and on the other side an impediment, it would have gone forward in its majesty.
Right?
It would have gone in weakness at first, but the God of heaven lives. Not until Paul had forsaken all trust in human wisdom,
Right.
counting it loss for Christ, was God able to exalt him in his mighty hand.
Right?
And I, brethren, says the great apostle, came not with excellency of speech or of wisdom, declaring unto you the testimony of God.
Right?
But unlike the humbled Paul, the great men in the church today are self-sufficient, independent of God,
Right?
and he cannot
You
use
are
them.
quoting from volume 5, page 8, Testimonies for the Church. That's where you are reading.
Okay.
Right? Presented
But
to,
unlike the humble Paul,
right?
the great men in the church today are self-sufficient,
Right?
independent of God, and he cannot use them.
Right.
You cannot use them, the call to this great and solemn work.
Right. This is a quotation we are going to read from volume 5, page 80 to 82. Right?
The call to this great and solemn work was, since 1844, presented to men of learning and position.
Did you hear what Sister White says? This call of the present truth was presented first to men of learning and position. This is from the Bible, from the Spirit of Prophecy itself. The call was presented. Go to volume 5, page 80 to 82, you find this quote. The call was presented to men of learning and position. What happened?
Had these been little in their own eyes,
Right.
and trusted fully in the Lord, he would have honored them
Right.
with bearing his standard in triumph to the victory.
So what happened? Why didn't they take it? Because they did not humble themselves. They did not become little in what they thought they are. So God bypassed. That's why he says they're self-sufficient. I can't use them. He says, when I presented this call, because I found so many brethren saying, why don't you preach to those who are leading us so that they can have this light? It's good, it's good. It was preached, my dear. It was preached to men of high learning, but because they did not become little, they did not humble, so they did not get it. Spirit of Prophecy, volume 5, Testimonies, volume 5, page 80 to 82 will give you that answer. Let's hear.
But they separated from God, yielded to the influence of the world,
Right.
and the Lord rejected them.
This is what happened. We are getting it fresh from our own history, our own books. We should know, somebody should read it for us to know what happened when we have so much good, precious gems which have not even gone through them. Someone should know what happened. And Sister White left it chronicled for you and me to understand what happened. Why didn't they have this? Why don't they know that there is Jesus' new name? Why don't they know about the seal from coming from the east? Why don't they know that there are 3 seals in any writing, page 15, clearly? Why don't they know? The call was presented to them, but they were not humble enough. And God rejected them. This is what the Spirit of Prophet says. And read on this here.
But the Lord has faithful servants,
Right?
who in the
His
shape...
testimonies to church still, volume 5, page 80 to 82, that's still where we are reading.
But the Lord has faithful servants, who in the shaking testing time will be
Right.
disclosed to view.
Right, in this time now, when we are getting all the seals, the Lord has humble servants who will be disclosed to view. They will get it. They will know they are humble, they are down to earth. God will clearly, simply give the abundance of the light to them. And what?
There are precious ones,
Right?
now hidden, who have not bowed the knee to bow.
Right?
They have not had the light which has been shining in a concentrated blaze upon you. But it may be under a rough and uninviting exterior. The pure brightness of a genuine Christian character will be revealed.
Right. There are precious ones. We have never even heard this. These have been protected by God so that they are not polluted. But in this testing time, they are being brought to view and they say, where are these trained? By the action of Spirit. It's training these precious ones to join the bay horses as the bay horses do their job. Team Bay has got lots of precious ones that God has preserved to join their movement, to make sure people have all the 5 angels' messages, not to be stuck on 3 angels' messages, but to go up to 5. Now let's hear more. Let's go to track 42.1.
Okay.
That's
Thus, in their perfect mutual harmony,
Right?
the Bible and the spirit of prophecy once again exalt each other
Right?
and clear the paradox of the,
Of the
fourth chariot.
Right.
Its double span of horses, each of which, as revealed by their colors and aims, is inimical.
Right. In 1937, we know as a brother would have preached the fourth angel's message in 1930, was raised in 1930. But in 1937, barely 7 years after the message from Brother whatever had been preached, I want to give you one General Conference President's speech. If you hear that speech, he had been enlightened by God and what was shown by God, the state, why people had rejected that message, how they remained in 1937. None of us were born then. I think when we were born, we were still crawling or something. But let's hear what happened when we were not born. That statement has been preserved for you and I by Sister White, who wrote it, and it is in the General Bulletin of the Review and Herald. Let's go to the speech by the. Let me look for it. Let me look for it. Have you found it?
Yes.
Have you found it? Just peruse for me. Peruse. It's near to what? To what tract? Is it near 47?
49.
49. Okay, somewhere. 49. I want you to hear exactly somebody who was confessing the truth as it is. Why God had sent the fourth angel in 1930. And when people did not receive what he actually confessed is what I want you to hear for yourself. And check if you have got these Review and Heralds. Check for yourself. It says 2 tract 49. Is it 49 or 47?
49.2.
49.2. 49. I'm on 47. 49.2. Yeah, okay. No. On the speech. It should be on 47. And I gave him 49. No, you have gone in the middle of it. There is a paragraph, a space I left. I want to hear where the space is, where it says speech.
Yes, under 47.1.
47, yeah?
Under
So I was right in 47. Okay. When you find it, let's hear what it says, right?
Speech from GC President.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Okay. After the fourth angel had come to the stage,
right?
Evidenced by the President of the General Conference in address published in the Review and Herald, which we quote in the part as follows.
Right.
I tell you solemnly.
Hear what he said. Listen to what he said. On which Review and Herald? Repeat the Review
October
and
14, 1937.
October
14,
1937.
1937.
Right.
I tell you solemnly that there are forces and influences at work which, if unchecked, will render us just as unprepared for the second coming of Christ as was Israel for his first coming.
Right. Did you hear? There are forces which will render us unprepared for the second coming of Christ. What was he up to? Let's hear. He's trying to give heads up. Let's hear.
Make no mistake.
Make no mistake
about that. I see those influences at work.
Right.
The spirit of Sadduceeism is working like leaven, and I want to lift.
At that stage, at 1937, he had seen a spirit of Sadduceeism working, which will render them unprepared for the coming of Christ. 1937. Let's hear.
The spirit of Sadduceeism is working like leaven, and I want to lift my voice in earnest entreaty that you may see that the door is closed against all such intrusions. I summon you all to engage in the fight against the spirit of Sadduceeism.
So he was was very good, very right. I summon you all. Let's cut this spirit of Sadducism, which made those who were there ready for the coming of Christ, it made them lose out the mark when Christ came the first time. He was warning the brethren. Now, let's hear what he said more.
The spirit, okay. I
Right.
summon you all to engage in the fight against the spirit of Sadduceeism,
Right?
the spirit of worldly conformity, that spirit which, if allowed to go unchecked, will subvert and change the whole spirit and purpose of this movement.
Do you see? He was now feeling that the whole purpose of this movement is going to be changed. If this spirit is not suppressed, he was feeling the spirit of Sadducism around him. Right? Let's hear.
This question also came to me. Are we, in our defense of these great principles of truth
Right.
that God has committed to us, allowing the mantle to fall from our shoulders upon the shoulders of others?
Now, he saw that the mantle is slowly but sure being taken off from their shoulders, being given to bay horses. The mantle, he just said, are you for sure? Repeat that statement. Let's hear.
Are we, in our defense of these great principles of truth that God has committed to us,
Right?
allowing the mantle to fall from our shoulders upon the shoulders of others?
Like it was with Esau. He simply allowed the mantle to fall
Fall
to
off.
Jacob. He says, are you really sure? Are we going to allow the mantle to fall from our shoulders to go to these laymen? You know, the laymen were proclaiming now the fourth angel. It was 1930 when it was brought, isn't it? Now it says, are you for sure going to allow the mantle to fall from our shoulders to go to this? You know, that's, you know, the bay horses now were shaky, man, were shaky, taking the mantle. Yeah, taking the mantle like it was with Jacob. Jacob took the mantle. Yeah, and Esau didn't mind. The mantle went when he was watching, as long as he had food. That's it. He didn't even mind about the mantle. But this president was so cautious and said, are we going to allow this? You're going to read it from Review and Herald. The quotation, I've read it. Scroll below and you find the quotation. Now, let's hear. What did he say more? Want to hear the steps that this man said, this man of God. I'd call him a man of God. He was really sensing something is happening around him. Right? Let's hear.
Are we going to allow others to step into our places and call
Did you
the
hear?
world?
Did you hear what he was feeling? Are we going to allow others to step into our places? He was really feeling the Testimonies for the Church, volume 5, page 80, where he says, in this warfare, few great men will be engaged. Those who have allowed signs falsely so-called, who was trusted in genius, intellect, will not be the head of the rank and file. Now let's hear.
Are we going to allow others to step into our places
Right?
and call the world to a reformation along some of these lines?
What was he saying? Let me take my chart, which is just mischievous, so that we know exactly what he was saying. Are we going to allow others? Yeah? Which are the others he was talking about? The bay. Are you allowing this bay to take over? Sorry, it's just unfortunate. But you have seen the bay already before. Are you going to allow these other bay horses to take over in our place? He was feeling it. The man of God was feeling it. Now let's hear. Read more. Right? Read. All that is coming from him.
Okay. I believe that we ought to bestir ourselves mightily. This is no ordinary time.
Right?
The times demand something unusual.
Right?
I want to stand here before you today as one who believes and believes deeply,
Right?
seriously and earnestly, that the whole purpose and objective of this movement today is in the balance.
Right.
It is for us to turn the scales on the right side.
He was feeling the heat. He was was feeling the heat of the bay horses. Now let's hear more.
I tell you, my friends,
I tell you, my friends.
in all seriousness,
Right.
that today many of our young people are
Right.
confused and their faith is broken down
Right.
by what they see and hear.
1937. He uttered that. Read on, let's hear.
Do you not know? Do you not know this? Is it not the truth?
Is it not the truth?
It may be an infallible truth, but many of our young people today do not believe in the spirit of prophecy
Right.
because of its inconsistency that they see in the lives of those who ought to be their leaders.
Right. See, he was really mourning. Now let's hear more. Let's hear more. That's why we have these books, isn't it? They're being sold freely. We buy them and we read. Oh, is it what happened? Right. That's freedom. That's our right to read. Right?
If we want the young people to believe,
Right?
we must set them an example in faith and practice.
If we want them to read, let's set them an example and be an example to lead them into reading.
Yeah.
And what? Read.
I think the time has come when this setting of a right example should be a challenge to all our people.
He was sensing that the bay now are taking over. And he was sensing that the mantle is taken. Yeah. Is taken to lead the chariot. You know, the chariot is being drawn, harder by the bay horses. Listen to that.
There is no use of our posing before the world in a certain light,
Right?
and then shaping our whole course and purpose according to another policy.
Right. You see? We are posing to the world as people of the light, but we are doing the opposite. This is what you are saying. Let's hear more.
Oh, may God help us
May
to
God
come
help us.
back to simplicity and faith,
Right?
to obedience and right practice. Most of our people know of the standards as taught in the spirit of prophecy.
Right?
And when they see us violating them in our practice, they lose faith, not only in the testimonies,
Right.
but in our leadership.
Right.
Let us be consistent leaders. Let us practice what we preach.
Now, we can go on and on and on, but let's see how it gets into action. The bay horses, how do they get into action? Yeah. Let's go. I will put you back again to tract 43.2.
43.
Start where it says, unlike in color, two teams.
Unlike
the team of the bay horses and the color of the team of the grizzled horses. You know them, yeah?
Unlike in color, the two teams are figurative of two classes of servants,
Right?
unlike in character.
Right?
The former class, the grizzled, are men of learning and position,
Right?
but self-sufficient, independent of God, and he cannot use them.
That's T5, page, Testimonies, volume 5, page 82, right?
The later, the bay,
Right.
those whom he will raise up and exalt among us,
Right?
are those who are taught rather by the unction of his spirit than by outward training of scientific institutions. God will manifest that he is not dependent on learned, self-important mortals.
Right. Go to the next paragraph where to tract 43.3.
This later class, moreover, have the pure brightness of a genuine Christian character.
So say the characters are different. The latter one for the bay horses is a genuine Christian character. And what?
But it may be under a rough and uninviting exterior,
Right?
unveneered by higher education,
You are reading
so-called.
from Review and Herald, February 9, 1885.
He will use men for the accomplishment of his purpose, whom some of the brethren would reject as unfit to engage in the work.
That's the point I'm looking for. It's on Review and Herald, February 9, 1885. God will use men who some of the brethren would reject as unfit to engage in this work. Is it not what he's doing? Yes. Some of the brethren say, what? What? We are used to so and so. Always a mountain. When he moves there, everyone is shaking. You will use men who some of the brethren will think they are unfit for the work. That's what God will do. Now, let's hear. And we are quoting there from Jeremiah 23, verse 3. Go to the verse itself. Jeremiah chapter 23. Start on the first verse so we can go with it nicely. Jeremiah 23, verse 1.
Woe be unto the pastors that destroy and scatter the sheep of my pasture,
Right?
saith the Lord.
Do you see the war where it's going? Right?
Therefore, thus saith the Lord, God of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people.
Right.
Ye have
So how they are destroying their disfellowshipping? That's exactly what he means. It starts by disfellowship. When you see people disfellowshipping, that's why I said the Laodicean church is the worst to disfellowship. That is the beginning of the strengthening of the bay horses. You kick them out, they're strong. They now know how to stand with God alone without any human being. So God is saying, woe be unto you when you disfellowship or you destroy my flock. And then what?
Therefore, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, against the pastors that feed my people.
Right?
Ye have scattered my flock,
Right?
and driven them away, and have not visited them.
Right?
Behold, I will
Behold.
visit upon you the evil of your doing, saith
Right.
the Lord.
Right?
And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of all the countries whither I have driven them.
You see, he's setting the work now for the bay horses. What will they do when they wake now in the loud cry? They start now gathering all the people of God from all countries, the Gentiles.
Yeah.
That's what we are reading. This gathering now has been given to the bay horses. Why? They have been scattered. They have been chased from the churches, and God gathers them and starts the work of the gathering process with those who have been disfellowshipped. Is it not happening in front of our eyes? Is that not? Yes. Now read on this here.
And I will gather the remnant of my flock out of the countries whither I have driven them,
Right?
and will bring them again to their folds,
Right?
and they shall be fruitful and increase. And I will set up shepherds over them, which shall feed them, and they shall fear no more, nor be dismayed, neither shall they be lacking, saith the Lord.
So when they are disfellowshipped, God is seeing they have been disfellowshipped for the truth. Then he starts gathering them and sets also shepherds. That's why you see those who are disfellowshipped, they are out there. You find there are some who are pastors, some who are elders, some who are deacons, some who are everything. Why? It's fulfillment of Jeremiah 23 verse 1 up to. He waits for you to disfellowship them. Then he knows who to use. He gathers them and he appoints some to be pastors, some to be shepherds, elders, to start the gathering process. You see? So well done for the disfellowship, because once you do that, you are helping God in this gathering process. So once that person is disfellowshipped and stands out there without a shepherd, without a church, God comes to give them the proper shepherds. Then they work in an organized way to start the gathering of the people to prepare for the kingdom. This is what is happening. And they are being used in a nice way, which does not benefit you, which benefits God. Now, let's hear now what happens next.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will raise unto David a righteous branch,
Right.
and a king shall reign and prosper.
Why don't you question why this verse comes soon after people are disfellowshipped? Then you find them coming back as people who are believing the branch. Why are they so linked? He gives gives them then all these two more messages. One of them is the seal of the branch. So that's why now they start by being disfellowshipped, walking, sticking to the truth. They are disfellowshipped by the grizzled. And then when they are out, God gathers them and gives them these two more angels. And even the branch. So that's why I said, behold, the days come, which I will raise the righteous branch unto David. So why unto David? Because now the shepherds which are being, selected from those who are disfellowshipped, they should be having David. When David was promised, or Elijah was promised, comes to take over now. Because that's why he says, I will raise shepherds for them. So they are taken, God's people are very, very, important in his hand. His sheep are very important. If you view people as if they are something that are nonsense or whatever, God views his own work, his own handwork from his hand of creation as more than precious. So he knows that while you think they are rubbish, they call them all those rubbish names. He calls them by a good name. Why? Because they stood firm for the truth. Now, let's hear more. Though these servants, on the next paragraph.
Okay. Though these servants of God, who are to be disclosed to view during the purification of the church, have not had the light which has been shining in a concentrated blaze upon the others, yet it is stated of them, the most weak and hesitating in the church will be as David, willing to do and dare. Then will the church of Christ appear fair as a moon, clear as the sun, and terrible as an army with banners.
Right. We could have read a lot of quotations. The same as you say, it's got a mountain of quotations, but a lot of quotations to highlight what Zechariah 6 wants us to know about the last movement, how it is formed, by being disfellowshipped for the truth. And stand firm for the truth, never recant, because God is in a business to make the church triumphant. So that when they are now gathered, when Christ comes, he will find a church, a second brass mountain, same as the one that he left in Jerusalem. But we have seen what this chariot has done to make a valley. But the valley is being repaired. That's why Isaiah 58 talks about repairing the bridge. That is the valley which is repaired. And it will be done by your children. Your children shall repair and shall be called the repairers of the bridge. May God bless us as we continue to study, so that we cannot fear and hesitate to call sin by its name, to call a spade by its truthful name, so that God is glorified. God alone should be glorified with his message. May God bless. Listen.